Hey everybody, this is FNGR, here with a response to one of my most recent Kings of Limbo, who lovingly decided to say he was glad to see DIgi Bro had moved on from the fandom, and thought negativity was weighing down the fandom, and while on the King of Limbo podcast, I strive not to argue with the guests. Well, we're not on the show right now, and on my channel I strive to show a balance of opinions, no matter how unpopular they may be, because expression in art shouldn't be limited to big happy smiles. Because we don't forget our roots. Because I'm a petty vindictive man that will unleash a good 30 minutes of pestilence and famine. So without further ado, here is DIgi Bro's thoughts on Season 5, featuring Cider from CR Pub Crawl. But, if you don't like artistic expression or brutal honesty, I encourage you to go check out Dr. Wolf's channel, where you won't have to risk seeing any kind of divergent or innovative lines of thinking whatsoever. For the rest of you, enjoy.
I was gonna say, had you thought about, like, where you're like, didn't like it, got bored, moved on? I would have killed for you just to do, like, 10-second, like, little clips of that for each episode. Like, put, like, a background in there. Oh, nope, gay, this was really gay. Right. Didn't like this one. Yeah, I would kill to throw that on my channel and show it to every Josh Scorcher fan just to piss him off.
The Rainbow Dash and Tank one just got boring. It was just repetitive. It was both of those, like, every episode this season, with the exception of one that I really like that I'll get to, but every episode was either like, yeah, I get it, or like, where the fuck is this going? So,
the
like,
one that I love about Tanks for the Memories is I've never had an episode before that just gets to the last 5 minutes. Not even the last 5, the last 3 minutes, meant to be the fucking culmination, tying in of all the loose ends, and I just go, I'm fucking bored, I'm gonna go watch something else. When I'm meant to be analysing the shit out of it. A show has failed when I turn it off on the first watching it the last 3 minutes and go, I'm bored.
Yeah, with both the Apple Bloom and the Rainbow Dash episode, that was like, it was just within like 5 minutes you got what the episode was about, and it never expanded on it. It was just like, she's trapped in a loop. The result, I mean, it's obvious that she's trapped in a loop because it's a loop of her fears about her cutie mark. And that's exactly what they explain at the end. And it just gave me that feeling like I'm actually watching a show for 6-year-olds.
Didn't they do that concept twice in 2 different animes? Melancholy of, what's it called? And then Card Captors?
Oh, do you mean Endless 8? It's not quite the same.
Well, no, Melancholy of Haruzuo. I can't think of her damn name.
The Melancholy of Haruki Suzumiya has 8 episodes that are all the same episode. Yeah. The Endless 8.
But the animation of each of those episodes is different. And my god, no fucking hell, I deal with someone who has a 20-minute tirade that they can repeat whenever you say Endless 8 was shit, and they talk about how it was like one of the biggest fucking artistic masterpieces in existence.
Whatever.
Like, you no one likes fucking cad.
That's a wonderful
troll. Those 2 episodes were boring. I didn't care. I got the point early on. I felt like I was sitting, because sometimes, here's the thing, like, when I say I feel like I'm watching a kid's show, I don't mean that as like, ugh, I'm so above this, you know, like, I often go into my brother's room, my brother Shade, he always has his cartoon on, his TV is always on Cartoon Network. I'll go in there, and some shit will be on TV, and I'll sit there, and I'll watch it, and I'll go, eh. And that's how I felt about these 2 episodes. It felt like I was just sitting watching whatever random cartoon was on TV. Like, I didn't have that association, like, this is My Little Pony, this is the show that was my favorite show. It was not like that. It was just, oh, it's My Little Pony, that cartoon show that comes on. It's all right, you know. So then the next one was, God, it was the fucking Appaloosa's Most Wanted.
The episode
what
that
the
killed
fuck
Tommy
was that?
Oliver.
What the fuck was that episode?
So I just watched the first 3 minutes, and then Jeff told me, don't bother fucking watching it, and then I stopped. And I'm glad I did.
I thought when I watched that, I was like, I must be hanging out on CR Pub Crawl too much. I'm bored. I'm hating... Oh, wait, no, this is just a shit episode.
Even my friend, even Neil X, who is a super defender of Season 5, he still loves it. He still thinks it's great. Even he thought that episode sucked and was like, yeah, it was not entertaining. It was stupid. Like, dude, the whole first half of the episode is just, what is this? Where is this going? This is going nowhere. And then the whole second episode of the second half is, oh, it's about this guy repeating the same joke over and over again. It was dumb. I hated it. That was the first episode where I was really like, wow, this show's gone to shit. Like, you know, the last 2 were kind of boring, but I was just like, this has turned to shit. What is this?
Now, if you want to look at it even further, fucking Season 1 and 2, the cutie map. All ponies should be equal. Cutie marks do nothing but bring destruction and despair. Fucking Appaloosa's Most Wanted. You don't think he'd be the first person going there? His cutie mark is literally a fucking curse.
right? Oh man. So
There are some good benefits, but overall, it's shit for him.
So the next one was make new friends but keep Discord. That was okay. I like the idea of Discord being like this jealous bitch. And like that was fun. I agree with Jeff that if you cut out like half of Discord's scenes, the episode's better. Jeff made a fan edit of that episode where he cut out like a bunch of scenes and made it like 16 or 17 minutes long, and he says it's like much better that way. I believe it.
It is. It truly, truly is.
I don't think it was like an exceptionally interesting episode. I just thought it was at least it was a good idea. That's the thing. Those other episodes just were not good ideas. Like, who came up with Apple Bloom has a recurring dream about her cutie mark fears? That was dumb.
I can tell you exactly what happened.
That was dumb.
I know exactly what happened there. They went up to a bunch of writers and said, right, fucking hell, guys, we're up to season 5. Who's got ideas? And everyone's just looking at each other going, shit.
Right.
I've got nothing. And then someone else is saying, hey, do you remember that movie Inception? Wasn't that a cool movie? Could we do that with My Little Pony? And this happens.
I'm taking clips from this podcast. I have to kick the Hornets list one more time.
Fucking go for it. This is...
I just remember people were just
out of ideas.
I had so many people going, "Oh, I'm so tired of Tommy and Digi bitching." I was like, I have to bring it back one more time. I have to bring the bitching back. Just be like, "Hey, look, guys, they're still bitching about it."
If it makes you feel any better. Wait, no, shit, we haven't done the what are we drinking tonight?
Water.
Sorry, if it sounds like I've been talking with a dick in my mouth, it's because I've been eating bacon bits or like bacon jerky. That's what it is. While I've been talking.
Oh shit.
So. Continuing where I left off. Discord episode was okay. Good idea. Whatever. I if that was in season 4, I would have been like, this is fine. Like I wouldn't have thought it was an amazing episode, but like that's the thing with season 5. There's only one episode so far that I've thought was like good. And so
was it Griffinstone?
Like when I say that the Discord episode was all right, like it was much better than the things that came before, but it didn't make me feel like... It still felt like, okay, I'm trudging through this fucking season, And then the one after that, the one that pissed me off the most was the Griffin episode.
Ouch.
Yeah. Yeah. If you have ever wanted a more pointless piece of shit where nothing eventuates, this is the one.
And what pissed me off about it so much is that Gilda, way back in season 1, the whole idea is that she's like the mean girl, right? Like the high school catty bitch character, right? And her and Rainbow Dash used to be friends because Rainbow Dash was sort of more of a, that was the kind of person she would have been friends with back in high school, but she's grown up, she's matured a little bit, she's got new friends, and when she realizes that Gilda's not the kind of person that she wants to hang out with, then that's where their conflict comes up. In this episode, Gilda is a bitch because she comes from an entire race of people who are inherently bitchy, who have no culture of friendship. Their only culture is being assholes, right?
It's not their only culture.
So you're saying Gilda comes from 4chan?
Almost. It's the case of within fucking living memory, there was a time when everyone in Griffindom was really nice and cool because they were rich. I was just waiting for the phrase shekels to be thrown up once in this episode.
I had a couple of people point that out. He's like, I'm not racist, am I, for thinking this looks like,
But here's where it really like, because I'll admit, for a lot of these episodes, I wasn't paying a lot of attention because they were boring and I was just kind of drifting in and out. I wasn't paying a lot of attention to this episode because it was annoying, and Gilda just kept going, we don't do friendship. That's not something Griffins do. We don't care about friendship. She kept saying it over and over again, right? And then we see her past, and when she's a kid, she's this shy, scared little girl, and she meets Rainbow Dash, and she's like, Rainbow Dash, you're so cool, and they become best friends. So the idea here is that Gilda is a bitch because she comes from a culture where everyone's a bitch, and yet she only became a bitch after hanging out with Rainbow Dash?
No, see, I've spoken to other people about this. She was hanging out with Rainbow Dash because Rainbow Dash was the best flyer. It was a method of protection, the only reason she was willing to hang out with her put up with her and attempt to be friends was because Rainbow
I don't
Dash
buy
was
that.
going places.
The way she's
That's the retconned explanation.
she's all scared, she's
Yeah.
all timid, she's not a bully. Then she sees Rainbow Dash and she literally is like, "You're my best friend. You're so cool." And she's like this nice, adorable little bird. It's like, wait a minute. So she was nice at this time, and then she spent her life with Rainbow Dash and somehow became the bitch that her culture would have made her had she been with that culture as opposed to being with Rainbow Dash. Now, I don't know how much time they spend at that school versus at home. It seemed to me always like it's a sort of boarding school, like Rainbow Dash lived there, and it seemed like she, came off like a didn't she come off a train with like luggage and stuff? Like she was
Yeah.
going to stay there? Maybe she went back home. Maybe she made return trips. The point is that she had the influence of Rainbow Dash from a time before she was a bitch, yet she still turned into a bitch. And the explanation is that she comes from a culture where everyone's a bitch. That doesn't make any sense.
Now,
Isn't
if you
Rainbow
wanna
Dash the bitchiest
continue
one of the
this-
main six, though? That's sort
Oh
of...
no, Fluttershy is 100%. Fluttershy is the worst
I mean, I'm
character
not-
out of all of them.
I just think that it's like it's not that it doesn't make sense for Rainbow Dash and Gilda to have kind of been bitches together. Like
Yeah.
I would have. That's what I thought in the beginning. Like they were kind of assholes in high school. Like that's what it seemed like in the original episode.
Yeah.
But the way this episode presents it is that it's trying to suggest that Rainbow Dash was the only positive thing. Rainbow Dash was her experience with friendship. Rainbow Dash, when she was a kid, her and Rainbow Dash got along and they were friends. And then, like, when she remembers that, that's what brings her to save Rainbow Dash in the end. So, like, where is this coming from? It's just so weird and ass backwards and asinine. The idea that the entire culture is just all assholes is just why?
No, the thing that I fucking love is they do so little to focus on the magic of friendship. What they attempt to do is give Gilda a fucking delicious treat.
Yes.
And apparently that's meant to solve this disease that could only be solved by a mythical fucking artifact before.
Right. It was so much suspension of disbelief for an episode.
This went
that
beyond
had
suspension of
nothing
disbelief.
going
This
for
was
it,
beyond the suspension of belief. I'm aware that these two conflate, but holy shit. This is where you give up on the aspect of...
This is the kind of thing where if someone was just describing the episode to me, like if I hadn't seen it and someone was just like going, dude, what if like Griffin's in it? And I just look at them and I go, what the fuck are you talking about? Like that's
This felt
how
like
I
an
felt
episode of Peppa
by the end of
Pig.
the episode. What the fuck are you talking about?
Have
So
you
then we
never
get to
heard- yeah.
we then get to the next episode, Cider,
Uh,
which I thought was the most entertaining episode up until this point, which was Slice of Life, because it was awesomely bad. It was almost like watching Garzy's Wing. It was so hilariously awful that I had a good time. The structure of this episode was just like I couldn't follow it. Like I'd be watching and they kept changing gears so frequently. And just like, what's happening? What's going on? Doctor Who's is in a bowling alley, and then it cuts to fucking Lyra and Bonbon's a secret agent, and then how fucking Vinyl Scratch and Octavia literally producing Brony music. It was Brony music. And then they get on a subwoofer and launch over a shark, and I was like, you did it. You jump. I mean, like, yeah, they lampshaded, hey, we're jumping the shark, and I was like, you did it. You jumped the shark. You did it. Good job. Like, round of applause.
Hey man, what's a dude? What's a man?
Oh, that's the line that pissed me off the most in the whole. Like everything else, I was able to like just have fun with and accept.
Yeah.
I mean, Doctor Who's voice was super obnoxious, but like I was just like, whatever. Lyra and Bonbon are gay. I love it. They're flying on a fucking dubstep machine, hilarious. But when that guy said man, and then he said, what's this word man? I was like, you've killed the world. Like
You ruined the joke.
yeah, like the whole show, like one of the main things that I've loved about the show from the beginning was how it it created its own culture because they didn't refer to humanity. Everything that you would normally say, you know, a human word for, they came up with a pony pun. That was like the building block of the show. And I felt like somewhere in the series Bible written by Lauren Faust, there had to have been a name, like, or a note that says like, do not refer to man. Don't make this a joke because it'll break everything.
It's a fourth wall joke. If like Pinky would have made it, you wouldn't have gave it a second thought.
But no, I would have, because that's the one joke you can't make because it destroys everything. It you know, you can break the fourth wall and nod at the audience, but the action has to keep rolling on and make sense. Like, you know, the world has to keep making sense. And yeah, if Pinky had did it, it wouldn't have been as bad because she is that character. She exists without, you know, she can see through the fourth wall, sort of.
Yeah.
But she never breaks the idea that she's a pony, that she's in this world, this pony world.
If
you know?
Doctor Who's had made that joke, if Celestia had made that joke, potentially that could have been different, because that could have been people going, "Oh my god, my fanfics!"
Right, but it's just because it's the character, the dude from The Big Lebowski, and so they have him say "man," and it's not funny. And I wouldn't have even probably noticed it if they hadn't drawn attention to it. Where he's like, "What is this man?" I'm like,
I think it's the fact that they actually drew attention to it that made it a problem. If they just kept it with a one-off and had him say "man," you know, filling his role as a character.
I wouldn't have even probably noticed, but when they pointed it out, and I was just like,
they made it a thing.
I was like, you can't do that. Like, the whole world is predicated on the idea that man doesn't exist. You can't just have someone say man. Like, why didn't they just make him say something pony related as opposed to man? You know, like they always do. Like the point of the show is. And why? And for what? To make a reference to The Big Lebowski? Like, you already made a reference before, and it was funny because it was in the background. It was like, oh wow, The Big Lebowski got snuck into this show. Haha, that's funny. And now it's like, wait, why are they characters? Like, they're not the background ponies. That's not what background characters are. They're a reference. They're not your characters. They're
Well, neither is Doctor Who's. That's a reference too, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, the character was not put in the show as a reference, though. The fans made it a reference, you know, like he was just some background pony, and people were like, "Oh, he looks like the Doctor, and he's got a time thing," you know. Whereas the Big Lebowski ponies were put in as a reference to the Big Lebowski. The fandom, that's what's weird about it. Like, everything else is about the fandom, right? It's all about what the fans think of these characters, and they spun that. But the fans didn't create the Big Lebowski ponies. That was just something that was a joke in the show that we noticed. You know, we went, "Hey, that's funny." Like, every other character they used was someone who, like, the fandom has really latched onto and expanded on. So it was such a weird thing to put those characters in there and to have them break the rules in such a big way.
Well,
yeah.
I was told M.A. Larson was going nuts trying to fit so many things in, and he's like, "Well, I don't know what to do," and they said, "Just have fun with it."
They made him do it.
Now,
like, Hasbro mandated.
There's a lot of other things that went on with that, such as M.A. Larson's like, "All right, I'm done. I've crammed in as many references as I physically can. This is all gold." Handed it off to people to get the final tick, and then Hasbro had one look at it and went, "You need more. This isn't wild enough. Make it bigger. Make it crazier."
It had no plot structure. Like, it was funny too, because at the very beginning, like the first minute or so, I was into it because it was the two donkeys, and I loved that episode that they were introduced in. I liked the idea that they were getting married. It's a good concept. It's a good way to start up the action in this. But then it was pretty much like right when he went to the post office and Derpy turns around and she's just like, "Want a muffin?" And I'm like, oh, that was the joke. She said muffin. That's the thing that we say about Derpy, you know. All right.
I get the feeling that you were just waiting for them to say, "Yeah, this is like My Little Pony," or something else like that. And you go, "Wow, they mentioned the name of the show."
Did you think it was funny when they referenced
job.
how long the show was?
I don't think I caught that one.
There was where Apple Bloom's talking to, I think, like the rest of the town. She's like, "Well, it'll probably get wrapped up in about 22 minutes."
Oh.
Yeah, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah.
I liked Derpy had like this. She kept lapsing into like a New Jersey accent. That was odd, but kind of adorable. Like I said, like I was mad at the whole man thing, but by the time we got to like Vinyl and Octavia producing Brony music, I was just laughing. Like,
you know, that's the bit.
It
that
had
made
the
me
intended
really,
effect, I think. And
that
I mean,
made me really unreasonably angry, and I still don't know why.
and I love that the I don't remember if I linked this to you guys or brought it up before, but there was this someone had come up with this idea that he was like, the plot of this episode is literally about asses kissing. Like, it's two donkeys having a big kiss at the end. It's about kissing ass is literally the plot of the episode.
Yep.
That's kind of genius. So yeah, it was a clusterfuck, but it was a marvel to behold in how much of a clusterfuck it was.
Out of all the clusterfuck episodes in season 5, it's probably my favorite.
So next was Princess Spike. That was another yeah I get it episode where I was just like, okay, I understand. Spike's abusing his power. It was all right. That one was better than the other ones, but it was just like whatever. It's a Spike episode. Who cares? I like that. I think I liked that one a little bit more because it addressed Twilight's princess duties, you know, where that became like more of a thing. That's like the best thing about season 5 is that it's like addressing that Twilight's a princess, which season 4 didn't really do, you know. But then the next one, this is the last episodes 11 and 12 are the only ones that I like legitimately enjoyed. And episode 11 was Party Pooped, I think, the one with the Yaks, where the fucking Yaks are wrecking everything, and the plot was dumb and
Fucking Yakistans.
had a weird message, but like there was a lot of good humor in there, a lot of good visual humor, a lot of good Pinkie Pie gags, and I was like, okay, that was an okay episode of My Little Pony. That was like, you know, it was up there with like Mystery on the Friendship Express or something, like just a random funny episode that you watch because it's funny, and it was okay. And I was like, all right, I can do that. And then the only episode that I legitimately thought was a good episode was Mending Fences, the one where Twilight goes back and meets her old friends. And I was like, this is actually a good idea for an episode. This is something really clever.
I am so glad that you mentioned episode 12 and not episode 13. I was considering whether we could still be friends.
No, episode 12.
Whoa,
Because-
I thought we used to be able to have different opinions on this show. What happened?
Okay, there's different opinions. This is like the idea of, I think it's fine to drink tea. You need powers
So,
until-
anyways, episode 12 was a great idea for an episode. Twilight realizes that she was a shit friend in the past. It's a callback that actually makes sense because you remember this. You're like, yeah, she was a shit friend. Yeah, it does make sense she wants to go back and make up with those friends, especially because she's the princess of friendship now. And this is the only episode where I never thought, yeah, I get it, and I never thought, where the fuck is this going? Right from the beginning, I understood. Okay, she's going back to make friends with her old friends. I didn't know what was gonna happen. She meets the first one, and I'm like, okay, is she gonna hate her? Is she gonna love her? And she's like, oh, you're Twilight. And then I love that they acknowledge that these guys have been around this whole time. It's like, yeah, we've been to all these events. We know who you are. You're the fucking princess. We've been well aware of you. We've been bandwagoning you, you know? And I was like, okay, that's way better than fucking the other one, the background pony episode at acknowledging background ponies. Like, this is how
agree.
you do that? And it actually makes sense in the plot. And it's like, yeah, you've acknowledged that they were in the background and like that doesn't destroy their character or make them dumb. It actually made sense, you know? And so she talks to all of them, but then there's Moon Dancer, whose party she never went to, and we all know that she skipped out on Moon Dancer's party. It's like, oh, Moon Dancer turned into this woman who hates friendship and studies all the time, and it's like she had this personal connection with Twilight and that they both study. There was a reference to, what was it that she, Cider, who was the philosopher that was it Derrida, and it was like,
Yep.
but they called him like hey right something.
I can't
Hey
even
something.
remember.
It was a parody of Derrida that they were like discussing his philosophy for going inside of a book, you know, which is a very postmodern idea. So that also is like a clever joke. There's a lot of clever jokes. The episode moved at a good pace. The characters and their interactions all made sense. It was a good idea for a story. It had an emotional climax where she like, you know, they tried to throw her a party and she just like rejects it and breaks down crying. And it was like, wow, that's pretty rough. But then they become friends in the end. And it's like, oh my God, you did it. You made a good episode in season 5. It's possible. Yeah, I had no problems with that episode. I thought it was...
I like some of
good time,
the
it made
fan.
sense.
I like some of the fan pictures. You know how you can get the fucking qualia where someone just takes one scene from the fucking episode and then they put a tagline and it summarizes everything, or it has some weird headcanon thing. In this instance, where it's Twilight dealing with all her old friends, it's like, wow, This is what Celestia tried to do with the elements of harmony and the magic of friendship to begin with. And then Celestia realized that Twilight burnt half those fucking bridges by being a pretentious twat, so she sent her somewhere where no one would know who she was.
Yeah. And also, another story beat that was great was like when she's trying to help her and it gets to that point where it's like, I can't figure it out. And then she goes and gets Pinkie Pie. And I was like, okay, that's a clever incorporation. Like, yeah, bring my other friend. And then the fact that Pinkie Pie knew Minuet and had seen her at all these events, that was another clever way to acknowledge the best. She was like, yeah, she's one of Cadence's bridesmaids. And it's like, that's indeed true, you know? And the one girl works at the castle. Like, it just made so much sense and it all clicked. And that was the episode where I went like, oh yeah, this show was good. Like,
yeah,
because
the writers knew what they were doing.
Right, because because, you know, I haven't watched this show in a while, right? You know, I haven't rewatched anything from like after season 4 ended, I did not rewatch any of the Pony show. I've only seen season 5 and I'd only seen the first 3 episodes, which I thought were like, you know, mediocre, okay. But like watching the rest of it and catching up, I was sitting there thinking like, did I really like this show that much? Like, this doesn't seem like it was nearly as good of a show as I remembered it being. And then when I saw that episode, I was like, this is what I remember it being like. Like, this is the show I remember watching, where a lot of things would happen in each episode. There'd be a lot of ideas, a lot of characters, a lot of details, like fleshing out this world, fleshing out the histories of the characters. That's the show I remember, and the rest of it is some bullshit that is not what I remember, you know? And then we get to the Luna episode.
About to ask, how does this fit in with the overarching narrative going to episode 13?
So,
Luna Edgelord is the main character of this particular
I like the
story.
idea of Luna being an edgelord, though, because she totally is. Like, Luna's always been, you know, she's this dark, brooding. I mean, if you look back at
fucking weeb phrase, Chinubio or something like that?
Yeah, Chunibyo. That's the one.
Yep,
yeah.
Sweet.
And the funny thing is, like, remember back when Friendship is Witchcraft did the Luna Eclipsed parody, where she's literally some fucking anime nerd who talks with a lisp and it's all about being dark and stuff. And this is that Luna in the show.
Yeah.
You know?
I really wish that Friendship is Witchcraft was making episodes just to hear them say, we tried, we really did, but it's already a parody of itself.
I mean, way back when I got into the fandom, there was that one song by Prince Whatever where he took the song Helena by My Chemical Romance and remade it about Luna. This is that Luna! This is the Luna that song was about. What's the worst that I could say to make you send me away? This is that Luna. And that I'm okay with. The actual episode leading up to that 2-minute moment when we find out why Luna's doing this and what her thing is, that's the part of the episode that I'm like, really? Bring back... Like, because we already had Slice of Life. We already had the dumb callback episode that jumps the shark and does everything in the show.
No, you
So
need
now we got it
2
again.
of them.
Now, once again, here's a callback to every single thing that we've ever done in the show before. Why? This is a dream. You can do whatever you want. Dude, you just did this like 4 episodes ago, you know? And I was talking to Neil X about this, where he was saying that, like, to him, like, Slice of Life is like a non-canon episode. Like, the way it's written is like you can interpret it as not being real. You don't really have to think of it as part of the show. But this episode, you do. You do have to think of it as part of the show. And if this was the only one in the season, then that would be one thing. But it's not. It came just right after this other one. Like, we just had an episode about nothing but background ponies that was completely stupid. Then we had an actual good episode that actually reworked stuff from previous episodes in a good way. And then we get another episode that's just, here's a bunch of shit. Here's a bunch of shit. You know, the whole episode is nothing but, we're in dreams. You can do anything. Here's weird shit. And here's old shit.
Can you stop trying to channel fucking Justin Roiland at that exact moment?
Yeah. Do you remember?
He's like a fucking crowd and shit and summoning apples to kill demons.
Oh god.
There's a moment when one of them Twilight's giving the speech to everyone and she's like, this is your dream. Anything you can do in your dream, you can do here. You have control. And I was like, man, this would be all anyone does all the time. Like, if it's this easy to control your dreams and you can have shared dream parties would be all anyone's doing. Who needs the real world, man? Escapist dream fantasies. I can be anything. I can be like, I'm Salad Man. I'm like a salad lettuce kind of guy. I mean, I could be anything. I could be whatever.
Well, then you'd have to worry about people tossing you
overnight.
Yeah,
completely and totally gone. Why get a prostitute when you can hook up with a girl that can do whatever the fuck you want?
Yep.
They don't even need to be in the dream. You just need to
and of course,
them.
that also, like, immediately where my mind went was everyone in town is going to want Luna to throw sweet dream parties, and they're just going to turn into huge orgies. Like, that's immediately what I thought of when I saw this concept. Giant fantasy dream.
Well, it does kind of make sense, because Luna, way back in the past, was like, man, all these ponies sleep while I'm meant to be in charge of the world. Then you think, but Luna, you're in charge of their dreams. You walk through their dreams. You guide them through their dreams. Why do you care if they're awake or asleep? You're the only one with power to go into dreams. This is where you have domain. It's like Freddy Krueger going, I can't kill people when they're awake. Bitch,
Cider, I don't know why I never thought of that during all of season 4, but congratulations. You now broke the motivation for Luna for the first episode for me. Jesus Christ.
She has literal beyond God powers in dreams, and only within dreams. And she gets mad when people aren't awake.
Luna, won't you cry for me? I'm as lonely as I've ever been. I was forced back into the start. Is there any way to fix a broken